Imagine you're at a gathering with people you know well. Someone asks you a simple question. What do you really think about this? Or maybe they ask, are you okay? Or perhaps they just look at you with that look, the one that says they're really seeing you. And in that moment, something happens inside you. You feel a small tightening in your chest. Your mind starts racing. You search for the right answer, the safe answer, the answer that won't cause any problems. You open your mouth, and what comes out is not what you wanted to say. It's what you thought you should say. Later, you're alone. And you think about that moment. You think about the words you swallowed. You think about the version of yourself that you showed. And you wonder why it's so hard to just be yourself. This is not about being fake. This is not about being secretive. This is about something much deeper. Something that most of us experience, but almost none of us talk about. Why do you hide parts of yourself from everyone? The short answer is shame. But that word carries so much weight. Let's break it down. Guilt and shame are not the same thing. Guilt says, I did something wrong. Shame says, something about me is wrong. When guilt is present, you can fix the behavior. When shame is present, you feel like the problem is you. And when shame becomes central to how you see yourself, even ordinary visibility can feel threatening. Think about it. A compliment may feel suspicious. A mistake may feel like exposure. Desire may feel embarrassing. Need may feel childish. Anger may feel unacceptable. Even joy may feel too visible. Too much, too loud, too risky. So you learn to edit. You learn to scan every room, every conversation, every relationship. You learn to calculate what version of you will be acceptable in any given situation. You learn to hide. And here's the part that hurts the most. You don't just hide from strangers. You hide most carefully from the people whose acceptance matters most. The people you love. The people who could actually hurt you if they rejected you. The people who have the power to really see you. You might think this hiding started as a flaw. Something wrong with you. Something broken. But that's not true. Most people learn to hide for good reasons. Perhaps being expressive invited teasing at home. Perhaps disagreement was called disrespect. Perhaps your family valued achievement, obedience, modesty, or adjustment more than emotional truth. The message may not have been spoken directly. It arrived through looks, silences, comparisons, sarcasm, or the familiar social fear of what will people say. Over time, your mind began editing yourself before others could reject you. You became careful with clothes, opinions, jokes, political views, friendships, food choices, spiritual beliefs, romantic feelings, and professional dreams. You started scanning the room and quickly calculating what version of you is acceptable. From the outside, this looked like maturity. From the inside, it felt like disappearance. This is where the internal censor lives. It acts faster than thought. Before you speak, it edits. Before you ask for something, it predicts humiliation. Before you dress a certain way, post something, flirt, disagree, dance, cry, or admit interest, it says, too much. This censor can become sophisticated. It knows how to sound polite, balanced, agreeable, funny, competent, and low maintenance. People may experience you as pleasant, but not necessarily available. You may be liked, yet not known. That gap creates a strange loneliness. You are accepted, but only the edited version of you is present. Let's talk about the difference between privacy and hiding. Privacy is chosen. Hiding is often compelled. Privacy says, I do not need to show this here. Hiding says, if they see this, something will go wrong. Privacy feels calm and intentional. Hiding feels urgent, ashamed, and absolute. Hiding says, do not let them know. Not everything hidden needs to be revealed. Mature adults do not disclose everything everywhere. The question is whether you are choosing privacy or obeying fear. Privacy usually feels calm and intentional. Fear feels urgent, ashamed, and absolute. Consider this common pattern. You want to say no to something. Someone asks you for a favor. Someone invites you to an event. Someone wants you to take on more responsibility. You already know what you want, but the word doesn't come out. Something stops you. Why does saying a simple no feel so much harder than it should. Maybe this isn't kindness. Maybe it isn't weakness either. Maybe it's the sound of your internal censor doing its job. Let's explore the layers of why we hide. First, there is social conditioning. From a very young age, we receive messages about what is acceptable. Boys don't cry. Girls don't get angry. Children should be seen and not heard. You should always be grateful. You should never complain. You should always be nice. These messages become so ingrained that we stop noticing them. They become part of the air we breathe. Second, there is family environment. In many families, emotional expression is not safe. Perhaps your parents were overwhelmed. Perhaps they had their own struggles. Perhaps they simply didn't know how to handle strong emotions. So you learned to make yourself small. You learned to not add problems to a house that already had enough. You learned that your feelings were a burden. Third, there is fear of conflict. Conflict is uncomfortable. It's risky. What if you disagree and the other person gets angry? What if you share your true feelings and they don't understand? What if you show your real self and they leave? The fear of conflict can be so strong that you would rather hide than risk the discomfort. Fourth, there is habit. Hiding becomes automatic. You don't even think about it anymore. You've been doing it for so long that you're not even sure if the real you exists anymore. The hidden self begins to feel less real than the performed self. You may no longer ask, "What do I feel?" Instead, you ask, "What is acceptable here?" Fifth, there is self-image. You have an idea of who you are supposed to be. The smart one, the reliable one, the good one, the strong one, the one who never needs anything, the one who's always calm. When you hide parts of yourself that don't fit this image, you're protecting the identity you've built. The problem is that this identity is based on one pillar. And the fewer things you count as you, the larger the percentage any single hit takes out. The exact same sentence delivered to two different people does completely different damage, depending on how much else each of them is made of. Sixth, there is the need for approval. This is one of the most powerful forces in human behavior. We want to be liked. We want to be accepted. We want to belong. When you believe that your worth depends on other people's approval, hiding becomes a survival strategy. You show what they want to see. You become what they need you to be. All of these layers work together. They create a system that keeps you small, a system that edits you before you even have a chance to speak. A system that hides the most important parts of who you are. Let me give you a concrete example. Imagine you're at work. Your manager reviews a 40-slide deck you spent 2 weeks on. They say one thing about slide 11. For the next hour, you are not a person with 10 years of work behind you, a family, a language you taught yourself, a friend group that likes you. You are the person who got slide 11 wrong. That's it. That's the whole self momentarily. This is the constriction effect. When the threat arrives, everything else about you goes offline, and the criticized part expands until it's the only thing in the frame. It isn't that you think one slide defines you. It's that in that specific minute, there's nothing else loaded. The cost is precise. You lose the ability to evaluate the feedback. Because when you've shrunk to the size of the accusation, agreeing with 2% of it feels exactly like agreeing with all of it, so you don't agree with any of it. You defend slide 11 like it's your house. Here's another example. A stranger leaves a comment under something you posted. You've never met them. You would never ask them for advice about anything. You don't know their last name, and yet it lands. You feel it in your body. This is because your self-esteem is not a trophy you carry around. It's a gauge, a needle. Its only job is to read in real time how much you appear to be valued by the people around you. Because for most of human history, being quietly devalued by your group was not a bad mood. It was a death sentence, and the needle is not symmetrical. Rejection drags it down harder and faster than acceptance lifts it up. So when that comment lands, your system is not asking, "Is this person correct?" It's asking a much older question. Did my standing just drop? Here's another layer. A stranger's throwaway line can now rewrite your evening. You need agreement from people whose opinions you don't respect. The people who love you most have the least access to you, since they're the only ones close enough to say something true. You built a wall to keep from being diminished. And the wall is precisely what makes you diminishable by anyone with 4 seconds and a keyboard. Let me share something I've observed. When someone asks, "Why do I hide parts of myself?" the deeper question is often, "What do I expect will happen if I am seen?" The expectation may be ridicule, rejection, misunderstanding, punishment, envy, gossip, control, or withdrawal of affection. The fear may not be dramatic. It may be a small tightening in the body, a quick change of topic, a smile that covers embarrassment, or the impulse to say, "Nothing, forget it." This fear can be based on the present person, an older relationship, family rule, or a repeated social wound. The trial happens inside your head, and the self loses before anyone else has spoken. Let me tell you what I've noticed about the relief-regret loop. Hiding gives immediate relief. You don't have to risk being misunderstood. You don't have to explain yourself. You don't have to watch someone's face change. You don't have to feel the shock of possible rejection. For a moment, your nervous system settles, then regret arrives. You may feel lonely after socializing, because you were there but not fully present. You may feel resentful that nobody understands you, while also knowing you haven't shown them enough to understand. You may feel invisible, but also terrified of becoming visible. This is the avoidant bind. The same strategy that protects you from rejection can also protect you from connection. Avoidance reduces immediate anxiety, then produces loneliness. Then loneliness increases the longing for connection, and the next invitation again feels exposing. The loop can look irrational from outside, but inside it has emotional logic. It is the logic of safety first, life later. Now let's talk about something that might be uncomfortable. Insults don't work alone. They need a partner on the inside. The words hit, and something already living in you quietly says, "Yeah, I've wondered about that too." The heat you feel is not really the sound of an attack. It's the sound of a private suspicion getting a second vote. Here's a sentence worth sitting with. You are not offended by what people say about you. You are offended by what you're afraid is true. The cost is that you spend years reading your own reactions backwards. You treat your strongest flare-ups as evidence of other people's cruelty when they're actually a fairly accurate map of your own unfinished business. Every place you get hot is a place you haven't settled yet. Here's another layer that's uncomfortable to look at. You are not going to say, "That hurt me," because saying that means admitting the hit landed. And admitting the hit landed means letting everyone see the wall move. So you do something much smarter. You upgrade the charge. It wasn't hurtful. It was disrespectful. It wasn't a careless comment. It was an attack. It wasn't your feeling. It was a boundary being crossed. Now look what you've bought yourself. You're no longer a person who got stung. You're a person defending a standard. You can go as hard as you want and stay the good guy the entire time. This is a well-documented tendency to read ambiguity as intent. Once you've decided someone meant it, retaliation stops feeling like retaliation and starts feeling like justice. And the moral framing is perfect cover, because nobody on earth can accuse you of being fragile while you're busy defending a principle. Be honest with yourself for a second. How much of what you call disrespect is actually just the fact that it landed? Go back through the last 5 arguments you replayed in bed. How many were really about right and wrong, and how many were about a wall getting touched, and you needing a nobler sounding reason to swing? The cost of this one is enormous. You lose the ability to tell the difference between being wronged and being wounded. And the people closest to you quietly learn that they cannot tell you anything because everything comes back as a moral charge. They don't stop noticing things about you. They just stop saying them. Let me offer a metaphor. Imagine yourself is like a piece of land. You have drawn a fence around a specific piece of the world and labeled the inside of it, me. And offense is nothing more than the alarm mounted on that fence. The volume of your reaction was never really about the other person. It's a readout of how much land is inside your fence and how close to the wall you happen to be standing. Where the fence got drawn so tight, nobody chooses the size of it consciously. It gets drawn early by whatever you learned you'd be measured by. Maybe you were the smart one. The praise you got as a kid was never for effort or kindness. It was for being quick, and so you learned that being quick was the thing keeping you in good standing. Maybe you were the good one, the easy one, the child who didn't add problems to a house that already had enough. Maybe you grew up somewhere the temperature of the room could change based on one wrong answer. So, you learned to know exactly which answer was the wrong one. Whatever it was, you learned there was one currency and you built accordingly. A small, dense, high-value plot of identity with a very tall wall around it. That's not weakness. A person who gets offended easily is not a person who feels too much. It's a person who is standing very close to the only thing they were ever told they were. Now, step back and look at what this whole system was for. It exists to protect your standing, to keep you from feeling small. That's the entire purpose. And here's what it actually delivers. Because you built it, a stranger's throwaway line can now rewrite your evening. Because you built it, you need agreement from people whose opinions you don't respect. Because you built it, the people who love you most have the least access to you, since they're the only ones close enough to say something true. You built a wall to keep from being diminished, and the wall is precisely what makes you diminishable by anyone with 4 seconds and a keyboard. So what do you actually do? Let's be clear about what won't work first. You cannot decide not to be offended. That's the whole problem. The heat arrives before you do. By the time the thought, "Don't take this personally," shows up, the reaction has already fired. You're just doing damage control on something that happened without you. Telling yourself to stop being offended is like telling yourself not to flinch when a door slams behind you. The flinch isn't waiting for your permission. The goal is not thinner skin. Thinner skin isn't a thing you can order. The goal is more of you. First, widen it before the moment, not during it. In the moment, your self-concept is constricted, which means the version of you making decisions in there is the smallest possible version. That's the worst place to try to reason. So do the work in advance. Deliberately invest real time in at least 3 parts of your life that could never all collapse on the same day. Not hobbies you mention, actual domains you're present in. This is not about being well-rounded for its own sake. It's structural. It means no single comment can ever occupy more than a fraction of the frame. Second, separate the sting from the verdict. There are 2 completely different questions inside every offense. Does this hurt? And is this true? You've been answering them as one question. That's why criticism is so expensive for you. If it hurts, it must be false and unfair. If it's true, you must be worthless. Pull them apart and answer them on different days. Give yourself total permission to feel the sting. It's an alarm. It's allowed to ring. Just don't let it vote on accuracy. Give it 24 hours. Then ask one question. If the person I trust most had said this exact sentence in a kind voice, would I still be calling it an attack? Sometimes the answer is yes. And then you know it really was hostile. Very often the answer is no. And that's information about you, not about them. Third, take the ruler back. Decide in advance whose judgment you have actually consented to. Make it a genuinely short list. 3, maybe 4 people chosen because they know your work. They've seen you at your worst, and they have nothing to gain from flattering you. Everyone else still gets to have opinions. You can read them. You can even learn from them, but they no longer get to issue verdicts because they were never appointed to. When you start doing these things, something quietly shifts, though probably not the thing you were hoping for. The alarm never goes silent. You'll still feel the heat. Anyone who tells you they've transcended being offended is either lying or has stopped caring about anything. And the second one is worse. What changes is that you stop building the wall higher and start making the land wider. And on wide land, a comment that used to hit the wall now lands somewhere out in the middle of the property. You still see it. You just watch it happen instead of defending against it. You can hear something unfair and not need to correct it. You can hear something true and not need it to be a life sentence. You become genuinely hard to insult, not because you've stopped caring what people think, but because there's simply more of you than there used to be. And no single sentence can cover it anymore. Let me offer you a final thought. There is a version of yourself that nobody has ever met. Not your parents, not your partner, not your best friend. It's not that you're hiding it on purpose. It's more like you've learned to edit yourself before anyone else has the chance to reject you. And here's the strange part. You've been doing it for so long that you're not even sure if that version of you is real anymore. But that version is real. It's been waiting. It's been waiting for safer conditions. It's been waiting for you to believe that you don't have to disappear to be accepted. The people who will love you, they want to meet the real you, not the version you've been performing. And you deserve to be met. Not because you're perfect, not because you've fixed all your problems, but because you're human. And being human means being seen, being known, being loved for exactly who you are. Not the edited version, not the safe version, not the version that says all the right things and never causes any problems. The real version, the version that's been hiding all this time, the thing you're hiding, it's probably the thing that will finally let you be loved for real.